Forget gurus. Forget anyone claiming to be an online business expert without going through the challenges of entrepreneurship themselves. The Real Money, Real Business podcast is here to prove the best insights in online business comes from your fellow online business builders. We dig into stories of entrepreneurs selling their business on the Empire Flippers marketplace so that you can learn how they made their business profitable, how they overcame obstacles, and what lessons they learned in their online journey. If you want to take your business and your knowledge to the next level, you've come to the right podcast. Let's get started.
Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of the Real Money, Real Business podcast. We record these interviews so potential buyers have more information about the seller and the business to help them make a buying decision. Today, we'll be talking about an Amazon KDP business for sale, and I've got the seller with me today. So, welcome to the show, Jenny. It's a pleasure to have you on. How are you doing today?
I'm doing great, thanks, Vinny.
Wonderful. Yeah, I'm really looking forward to talking about your business. And just before we dive in, let me give our listeners a brief summary of what your business looks like. So today's listing is an Amazon KDP business created in February 2019 in the books niche. The average monthly revenue for the business is $2,436. And it makes an average of $1,639 per month in net profit. The assets included in the sale are the Amazon KDP account with 147 books, an Ingram Spark account with 7 books, and 1 unpublished low-content book. You can head over to empireflippers.com/marketplace and search for listing number 53884 to learn more about the business. Or you can unlock the listing if you want to start your due diligence if you're interested in purchasing this asset. So, Jenny, that's a very high-level overview of what your business looks like. But let's find out a bit more about yourself. Can you share with me what your background is in building or running online businesses?
Oh man, I've been doing online businesses probably 15, 20 years even. So I got started on I was really bored in the evenings, so I was sort of like building websites, and then I realized I could Google AdSense on them and I could earn money while I was asleep, and that was like a complete win. And so that whole thing kind of got me started through sort of doing different online businesses, especially with like that. If anybody's read the Tim Ferriss book, 4-Hour Workweek, the concept just creating assets that earn me passive income, that kind of got to me, and I sort of tried a number of different things, which this KDP business is one of them. I've tried FBA and stuff like that. So I've tried a couple of other sort of models, but the KDP one was one that appealed because it meant that, really it's very hands off. So yeah, I just love that kind of idea that you wake up and you've earned money without doing anything. So that's why I've kind of got into this kind of business.
Right, that's wonderful. So it sounds like you probably one of the earliest adopters of the online business sort of industry and all the different models, because it's only really been around or, gained traction over the past few years, So, but yeah, it definitely sounds like you're cut from the same cloth as a lot of people in our industry who, like yourself, read the 4-Hour Workweek, realized the potential of, like you say, running a pretty hands-off business. You go to sleep, you wake up, and you've still earned money because of passive income sort of trickling in through, like you say, AdSense earnings and other stuff like that. So that is fantastic to hear. Let's dive into this business then. So Amazon KDP, or how did you come up with the idea to start this one in particular then?
Well, obviously Amazon's got a massive marketplace. It'd be bonkers not to do, if you're going to do something online, why would you not use practically the biggest marketplace in the world? And obviously there's a number of different models with Amazon, and I think I kind of got into it because there was a lot of people talking about books. And I think at the beginning of the whole sort of low content books thing, because that's really big now, but before that, even a couple of years ago, that wasn't such a big thing. And I was like, I could see the potential. And also because I got pretty good at SEO and sort of long tail keywords and sort of doing research on keywords. So I wanted to use my experience with that to create assets, again, brought me income, sort of do the research of find what people were looking for and provide it. And I just love the whole creative side of it as well, of either creating something myself or working with other people to create stuff. That I like that whole creative process.
Gotcha. That makes a lot of sense. I guess it sounds like the business model sort of accommodated your own personal interests and sort of the way that you work as well, factored all of those skills in as well. So we've introduced this business as, it's in the books niche. That's not terribly helpful. It's pretty vague, but Without revealing too much, can you share a bit about the types of niches or categories that, your books are published in and why you chose those categories in particular?
Yeah, sure. When I was researching, I wanted to have something that I was kind of interested in. So most of the book sales are actually paperback book sales rather than ebook sales, which is great because, of course, then they sell on both KDP and on Ingram Spark through bookstores and stuff. So to give you an idea, I mean, it's across a whole bunch of niches because, as I say, there's 150 books and there's all sorts of different things. Because what's great is you kind of throw stuff at the wall and see what sticks. So there's a couple of things where I've done sort of series where there's one is a sort of a colouring book series. So I've just got the third book in that series ready to go, which is included in the sale. There's some kids' activity books. And then there's some sort of more seasonal books and there's some in the sort of finance niche as well. But they are all things where I was like, I know enough to sort of take this and hone it so I feel it works for the person who's buying it rather than, I think a lot of people just buy an interior or anything. These aren't any bought interiors. These are personally created interiors for these low content books that, and all personally created covers or commissioned covers. So that's kind of where I've gone with these, just to create assets that will keep earning money long term. They weren't just going to be sort of hitting a trend and burning out, that they would sort of earn money for the long term, really.
That makes sense. Also, can you briefly break down how does a business make money? Because there's a couple of different ways. I noticed there's obviously the KDP account included. There's also an Ingram Spark account as well.
That's right. So what I did was I sort of obviously tested the different books on KDP, and then I was suddenly realised that actually I was probably missing out, and I didn't really know how Ingram Spark would go. But actually, I put the sort of the top selling books onto Ingram Spark and been really surprised. I thought it would be just a little trickle each month, but actually some months it's been the sales for particular books as big on Ingram Spark as they have been on KDP, which really surprised me.
Yeah, that's wonderful. It definitely sounds like these different channels starting to pay dividends. So, you've poured a lot of your knowledge and your wisdom into growing this asset from the ground up, but our listeners will be wondering, why are you selling the business right now instead of staying with it or growing it?
Well, that classic new shiny object thing that most people with an online business will be familiar with. There's a new model that I'm really keen to try, but what I'm aware of is that I can't really carry on doing this business at the same time as doing that business. I kind of need to throw myself wholeheartedly into that business. And if I have to keep coming back to this and sort of just checking the ads and just keeping an eye on that and all the, just the bits that go with that, it's not a huge amount, but I just wanted my mind free for this new thing. So I thought it seemed to make sense to, hand it over to somebody else. And also, I know that somebody, if they're prepared to sort of sit and look at the numbers and look at ads, I believe they can make more money than I've been making just by paying more attention. So, yeah, I think it's time to hand it over to somebody.
For sure. I think that makes sense. I totally understand about the shiny object syndrome. I think it's great that you acknowledge that if you really want to go full on in this other direction with this other venture, it's probably wise to perhaps let go of this one so that you can fully concentrate on the other one, make sure that you have the highest chances of success. So let's look into your experience then as you were building this business in particular. Was there anything that you learned that you think you might apply to other sites or businesses?
Yeah, sure. I think for me, I've always based what I'm creating on demand. So as I say, I think I said with the Google AdSense sites I set up earlier, that was all based on sort of SEO and sort of finding what people were searching for. And so for me, I'm going to take that sort of keyword research and SEO into what I'm doing. So I'm already with this new business and I'm looking at, okay, what is the problem I need to solve for people? What are they typing into search engines? And how do I serve that up? Which is the same sort of skill base that I've done for these KDP books.
That makes a lot of sense, especially with organic traffic. Yeah, just understanding the sort of psychology behind it through search intent, why people type in these keywords. I think that kind of, in a way, it makes the process of creating products easier because it's like, well, as long as I can solve this problem, then that sort of paves the way. So definitely makes a lot of sense there. When you were first starting off, were there any software or tools that helped you scale the business?
I think I've used a number of keyword tools. I think the simplest to use and probably one of the cheapest one is something like Merchant Words, where you certainly used to give you up to get like a subscription of about $9 a month if you got the right code. And that's given me, as a first sort of fairly rough tool, to get an indicator of what kind of things people are typing in to the search engines. That's been really useful.
Yeah, great. And as you were learning more about KDP, or I suppose just online businesses in general, are there any sort of resources or tools or influencers that just really helped you skill up and get up to speed with the latest trends to basically be successful at running online businesses?
I guess I just followed a bunch of people, I guess, on YouTube and listened to certain podcasts. So I'm just trying to think. I've listened to a load of I just listened to a load of different podcasts by people who are running online businesses just to get an idea of how their creative brains work. And also, I think because there's often when you're running an online business, it's quite, nobody else around you understands how to do it. So it feels like you're part of a community. So I am part of a lot of different Facebook communities because I think it makes you feel like you're not the odd one out because none of my family or friends really understand what I do. But, hanging out in online communities kind of gives me encouragement that other people are doing this slightly different sort of path to living the life they want to. I guess that's not quite the answer you're expecting, but I think, for me, trying to be part of those communities, and I know I've followed people like RJ Martinez and people like that because he's tried all sorts of things. But I think that also what I've seen with following some of these people is that they're quite happy to change the model for success if that's needed.
Appreciate that. Because there's so many resources out there, in a way it's just a bit of a blessing and a curse, really, because you can be hit with information overload. But I appreciate what you're saying. There's a lot of stuff out there that you can find out, and I think podcast is definitely a really good channel to get different nuggets of wisdom from various entrepreneurs in our space. So it makes sense. I asked you about were some of the things that really helped you and really worked for you. I guess on the other side of things, was there anything that you tried that didn't really give you the ROI you were hoping for?
Well, I guess I've been sort of finding my way with Amazon ads. That I found that's given me some really good ROI at times. But I know that one of the tools that a lot of people suggest is using auto ads because you're then using the Amazon algorithm. It knows what people will be buying. I think sometimes that's been really amazing to run an auto ad campaign on a book and you come up with all the things you wouldn't have thought of in terms of that you can then use in future, whether it's sort of ASINs or keywords or whatever, to then use going forward. But to be honest, equally, sometimes I've tried to take those, what I thought were nuggets, and they haven't been as successful. But on the whole, I would say 75% of the time that's yielded something really useful going forward to take into an ad campaign and tweak and get working.
For sure, I think that's a great bit of advice there. Let's just shift over to the marketing side of things. You mentioned earlier that traffic mainly comes through organic search. I mean, what do you currently do in terms of marketing right now?
Of course, I've mainly done it that, on a platform like Amazon, most of these will be found through organic search, and of course spent a lot of time in keyword research, putting in the back end things to make that happen. But I also use Amazon ads in 4 different countries at the moment, the US, the UK, and then a couple of other ones, just to sort of really boost the visibility and also to place them in front of other people who wouldn't otherwise have seen them.
Gotcha. So it sounds like traffic is quite diversified. Obviously, you've got the Amazon organic results, but there's also some paid advertising mixed in just to try and expand your reach. I guess by extension then, what do you do to maintain the business on like a day-to-day basis? What are some daily or even weekly tasks?
To be honest, at the moment, I probably only check the ads probably every week or every couple of weeks or something like that. That's the bit I'm aware that I can't really give the business enough attention. Really, I just go on and check the ads and just, from time to time, I'll go through and do some more keyword research because obviously, every few months it's worth going through that keyword research and seeing if there's any new keywords or ASINs you can add in to the ads, the existing ads, and kill off anything that for whatever reason was performing but isn't performing any longer.
So, yeah, it sounds like it's really quite a hands-off operation at this moment in time.
It is, and I say there are a few seasonal books in there. So obviously, when the season's starting, for example, I've got, which surprises me, I've got a Christmas-themed book that's already starting to sell here in, and we're recording this in June. So I've started to sort of think, okay, I perhaps need to start putting some ads behind that so that it starts hitting the algorithm, which, it did phenomenally well last Christmas. And so in order to help that and get it hitting the algorithm, I'll usually run a small sort of ad campaign behind that.
Gotcha. In theory, then, if you did stay with the business, what would you say are some of the ways you would try to grow and expand the business?
I think, well, I know I've been wasting money on ads just because I haven't been keeping enough of a closer eye on it. And I think I can certainly manage that. And I think also of the 150 books, I haven't spent any time to go through all of them to see which ones are garnering reviews on Amazon, which, for me, when a book's got a decent, more than a dozen reviews, it's really easy to run an ad campaign and get return. When it's got no reviews, that's a much harder win. So I think that's what I would do, is I would go through the different books, see what's been selling. And I'm only advertising probably at most 10 of those books at the moment. So I think, I could double up on that and increase the income, but also cut back some of the ads that haven't been performing, that I haven't really been keeping on top of the last couple of months, really.
Yeah, that definitely makes sense. Like you say, you're not spending too many hours on it, but I guess there's an opportunity to go in there, really dig in deep, look at the analytics, and then perhaps double down on the marketing side of things, more hyper-focused approach. With all businesses, I'm sure you well know, there's always inherent risk. What would you say are some of the biggest risks with this business that a buyer should be aware of?
For me, it's when you run a new ad campaign. So I've done it where you set it up and think this will be fine, and then check a week later and you could have just taken those dollars and lit fire to them because it hasn't been successful. So I think just the biggest risk is in terms of not keeping an eye on, if you're running a new ad campaign, not keeping track on that. But I think I like about the business is that there really isn't much of a risk. You've got products, assets that are performing, and there's no reason that they can't continue performing, because I've looked most of these ones, there's no time frame to them. And there's, other books in that niche which have been performing sort of for 3, 4, 5 years and continue performing. So there's no reason that they shouldn't be able to continue to do so, as far as I can see.
Yeah, that makes sense. Last few questions from me then, Jenny. How much support are you offering buyers?
Well, I'm quite happy, I think, to offer sort of 30 days of support, whatever the buyer would feel would be helpful to them. Yeah, I wouldn't call myself an Amazon ads expert, but I'm very happy to talk them through what I've done and the people that I've worked with. So I, obviously can share the different people I've worked with to create these assets or these different books. So yeah, really whatever somebody needs for those 30 days, very happy to offer that.
That's great to hear. Are you willing to commit to a non-compete?
Yes, of course, yeah.
Fantastic. Last question from me then. If you put yourself in the shoes of a buyer, why would you say that this is a business worth buying?
I think I've kind of already alluded to, I've kind of let my eye drift off the ad sales. So I think there's definitely a potential to increase sales by trying new, different types of ads or advertising books that haven't been advertised, and to reduce the ad costs and just kill some of the ones that haven't been working so well. So I think by just keeping a track of the numbers, which I will put my hands up and say I really haven't done for probably 6 months or so, I think someone who is willing to just take a look at those numbers, either knows what they're doing or is willing to learn, could easily sort of earn some more money and reduce the cost of this business. No problem at all.
Sounds great. Is there anything you'd like to share that you think I might have missed?
I think anybody who's read a book like Rich Dad, Poor Dad understands the value of creating assets that earn an income. And that's what this business is. You're buying a chunk of assets that can earn an income on one of the biggest platforms in the world. So I think if you understand that model, this could be a really good business for you.
Great advice. So, Jenny, that's pretty much the end of the interview. Thank you for joining me on today's episode. I really hope that your business does get acquired by the right buyer in the very near future.
Thank you. Really appreciate that.
All right, everyone. Thanks for listening. To learn more and see if this listing has already been sold, head over to empireflippers.com/marketplace and search for listing number 53884. If you're watching this on YouTube, click the link in the description to go straight to the listing. And once you've unlocked the listing, you'll be given everything you need to know about the business. So until next time, enjoy your digital journey.